The references that we're using today, majority comes from ATP 3-21.6, infantry platoon, or correction, .8, infantry platoon and squad. And then the Ranger Handbook, year 2017. All right, so I'm working this video, this class, as if we have a good general idea of how the squad operation works. So how squads work. So squads, again, they got their alpha team and their bravo team, and you have two elements to work with. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. You basically automatically got alpha and bravo, so you got a support and an assault, no matter what you're doing. Where the benefit at the platoon level is that you've got a lot more elements and a lot more people to use. All right, so there's more variety. So there's not always right and wrong. There's a lot of things that are just up to the PL based on the circumstances, MET-TC dependent, right? So a lot of people, that is a blessing. It's a great thing. But a lot of people see it as a curse because they don't know what to do with all these people, all right? It's a blessing, all right? Having extra elements, having extra people is good, all right? So let's talk about it. So we got 4 squads, all right, in a platoon. We got our first, our second, our third, and our 4th squad, all right? This is a great way to list them out, 4, okay? Now, having 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th is great if we are in garrison and I'm trying to identify, hey, where's 2nd squad at, where's 3rd squad at, or if I'm in formation, I can see 1st squad, 2nd, 3rd, I can see them lined up properly, all right? However, all right, it can get very confusing in tactical operations. So the way we like to refer to these elements typically is by function. So there's 4 squads by function, and this is according to the Ranger Handbook. We got a security squad. We have an assault 1 squad. We have an assault 2 squad. And we have a weapon squad. All right? So we got these 4 squads to work with. Where security, guess what their job is? They're security. All right? They're an extra element to provide additional security on objectives or different areas of your operation. Also, they're typically used for reconnaissance type operations as well. So we like to use these guys for security and reconnaissance. All right? And typically we give them some extra stuff. Like we usually give them extra ammunition. We also give them some extra weapon systems because they're going to be the ones in charge of blocking to either side, guarding our flanks, whatever it may be, preventing the enemy from moving into our operation. So a lot of times we like to give them maybe extra claymores, AT4s, whatever they may need, some extra ass to take on any enemy trying to move in and out of the AO. Okay, Assault 1, that's our primary assault squad. That's their job. They are the assaulters, and they will always be that. That's their role, all right? Assault 2, this is where I was talked about earlier. We have some variety, we have some wiggle room to use these guys however we see fit, all right? We can use these guys another way. We call them Assault 2, but they can be an extra support. They can be an extra security. And of course, they can be an extra assault, all right? They can be used however we see fit. They can even be used as a reserve. However we see fit, we can use these guys. All right, so really that's an extra squad that if you don't have something to do with it, that's great. It means you don't have to employ all your people. You can keep them in reserve and give them planning priorities to be prepared for. Okay, lastly, we got our weapons squad. Our weapons squad is unique. These squads pretty much look the same as your normal squad would look, where you got an alpha team, a bravo team, team leaders, you got your rifleman, your grenadier, automatic rifleman, that basic squad. The weapons squad is different, all right? The weapons squad is where your machine guns are. So you have 2 times 240 Bravos in that element. 2 machine guns. So within that, you typically do have an alpha team and a bravo team, or a machine gun team 1, machine gun team 2. So you got a gunner, he carries the weapon. You got an ammo bearer, he carries the ammo. You got an assistant gunner, I'll just put an AG, all right? He carries the tripod to place these on, all right? And then you got your team leader, all right? He's in charge of the team. And obviously the same for Bravo. But you got this, it's a different looking squad, all right? And typically it travels differently throughout as well, all right? So those are our squads, and that's what we have to work with. Oh, and weapons squad, it's 100%, should say. It's going to be your supporting element, okay? So it's always going to be your support. So you always got a support here in weapons. You always got an assault here. Security usually is in security, but they can be used sometimes as well for other things. Assault 2, that's really your element that you can use how you see fit, all right? Sometimes it makes sense that Assault 2 is a breach team, if you're breaching to an obstacle, and Assault 1 is the exploitation team, moving through that, that obstacle. But whatever it is, you got a little bit room to play with, okay? So there's the organization of a platoon. All right, next we want to talk about formations. There are a lot of formations that a platoon can take, all right? Recommend, if you want to dig deep, very simple, you can look it up in ATP 3-21.8. It easily spells it out, all right? But we're going to talk about the most common 2 that we use today. All right, so we got 2, right? So the most common one that we use is our platoon column, all right? So bear with me while I draw this out. But we're going to draw out our platoon by squad. So there's our lead squad, all right? And then we got a headquarters position. In this headquarters position, we got our PL and our RTO. And if we have an FO, a forward observer, he's there as well. All right, we got our center squad. Then we have another headquarters position, and that's where our platoon sergeant and medic go. And then we have our trail squad. And there we go. This is our platoon column. A lot of times we call this a platoon wedge. All right, but technically a wedge is where you got a squad here, all right, and like a squad here. All right, where you're literally wedging the platoon. Very difficult to control. That's not typically how we use it, okay? Platoon column, all right? Platoons are in column, so because the squads are stacked on one another. The squads are in column because the teams are stacked on top of one another, but then the teams are in wedge formation. So really it's platoon column, squad column, fire team wedge, all right? That's what it looks like, okay? Now, the squad I haven't talked about yet is the machine guns. Where are the machine guns at? The machine guns are placed by the headquarters. So we've got a machine gun team here by the PL, okay? And we got a machine gun team here by the platoon sergeant, all right? And the key is we don't want the machine gun out front or in the rear. We want the machine gun also next to our headquarters elements, next to our platoon sergeant, next to our PL, okay? The reason is those 240 Bravos, they're the most important asset that we have. They're everything we have. They're the most important asset. Okay, without them, we've lost a huge amount of our combat power, and really we've lost the ability to suppress the enemy effectively. Okay, we got to keep the machine guns safe. All right, so we don't want them in front, we don't want them back. They're next to the headquarters position because the PL and the platoon sergeant are the 2 senior men in this platoon, or women in this platoon, and they're the ones that are going to be able to employ them directly. All right, so yes, there is a weapons squad leader floating around in here, making sure his squad is doing well. But when it comes down to it and we're in a fight, that PL is going to grab this machine gun and put him where he wants him in order to facilitate his operation. Same with the platoon sergeant, okay? And then obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but we have them offset. So we have this guy on this, this one on the right, this one on the left. So if we take contact from one direction or another, if need be, we can suppress pretty instantaneously with either one of the machine guns, okay? What you can also do is just thinking about it, use the common sense method. So if we got terrain over here to the left, let's say we got elevated terrain, a ridge line over here, we might be more concerned about taking fire from the left-hand side of the formation, all right? If that's our major concern, we could probably move this machine gun to the left as well. And so we're more secure to the left where we're more probable to receive enemy fire, okay? But either way, it's using the common sense on that one. Okay, the second formation that we're going to talk about is platoon file. All right? So doctrinally, according to 321.8, a platoon file has a fire team here, a fire team here, a fire team here, and then the platoon is in file in a line. I shouldn't say no, not line, correction. A file like this, okay? That is doctrinally what it should look like. So basically, you do have a small wedge on the left, a a small wedge on the right, a small wedge in front to protect your sides, okay? Reality, what it turns into is the platoon file is literally ducks in a row, one long line. I'm not going to draw out every single individual soldier, but you get the gist. We're moving in a line, okay? Correction, we're moving in a file. Stop saying line. All right, so the key thing with both these formations is maintaining our spacing, right? Spacing, the minimum amount of spacing is supposed to be 10 meters, okay? Why is that? Because the blast radius is 5 meters of a grenade. So if an enemy grenade lands anywhere in here, it should only be able to kill one person or wound one person, okay? So that's our goal. It also provides spacing that makes it difficult for enemy small arms fire to hurt us, all right? Now, I'm sure this is a pretty basic concept, but let's talk about it. What formation would I rather be in? I obviously want to be in platoon column because I have adequate firepower to the front if I take contact. I have adequate firepower to the rear, and I absolutely have adequate fire to the left and to the right. If I'm in file, I have pretty good fire to the left and right, but I literally have one individual to the front and one individual that can fire to the back. Very poor security in that way. And also, it is a lot easier to basically ambush this element and inflict heavy casualties. Okay, so this is better than the right. Why would we ever go in this? Obviously, the answer is low visibility, dense terrain, difficult terrain to walk through in a wedge or a platoon column, or difficult to maintain eyes on each other. Okay, so the point is that even if you're in good terrain, if you don't have night vision devices, we typically do in the real army, but right here in Cadet Command we don't. All right, in order to control your element, it may be required to move to a platoon file. Okay, and that way we're lined up. All right, and that way you can keep eyes on the guy in front of you and behind you. Okay, but especially in dense terrain where it's literally impossible to move in this column, you're gonna have to probably move to this. Now, what I will say is, if you're in incredibly dense terrain, you're typically not at an optimal point for the enemy to ambush you, so you can kind of usually accept risk there. But the moment you get into anything spread out or open, you need to move back to platoon column immediately. All right. I'm not going to talk about any of the formations. These are typically the main two that we use, but we got platoon line. We also have a platoon V. We do have that platoon wedge, like I mentioned. There are some other good formations that you can be used, but 90% of the time, these are the two we're using. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is some movement techniques. All right, so we're always in a formation when moving, and we're always in a technique. There's 3 movement techniques. We got traveling, we got traveling overwatch. I don't know why I did that. And we got bounding overwatch. Okay. These are our 3 techniques. We are always in one of them. Always. If someone goes up to your patrol and says, hey, what technique are you in? Every soldier in your platoon needs to be able to tell what technique we're in. We need to know. Okay? So let's talk about it. Traveling, what does it mean? It means that enemy contact is not likely. Contact, not likely. That's all we need to say. All right. If you go to 321.08, there will be an extended definition of this, but that's what it means. It's all enemy-based. It's based on the enemy situation. Okay, so not likely. So what does this look like? All right, I can walk faster. All right. Also, my spacing does not need to be as large as usual. So between my lead squad, my middle, and my rear, all I need is 20 meters between each. 20 meters, well, between the headquarters and then headquarters to this squad, 20 meters. 20 meters, 20 meters, all right? Between elements, all I need is 20 meters. okay? And typically, the only time we're in traveling is when we're behind friendly lines. Even when we're behind friendly lines, we need to move somewhat tactically still, because anything could happen. All right, traveling overwatch. This is when contact is possible. All right, so enemy contact is possible. So we should pretty much be in traveling overwatch anytime that we're moving out into a potentially hostile environment. All right. This, we're moving slower and more deliberate. And second, we're adjusting our spacing. And we're adjusting our spacing by this. We need to be at least 50 meters out. Maybe 50 to 100. Minimum is 50, okay? So this lead squad needs to be 50 meters in front of the headquarters position, all right? And then the 20 meters throughout is okay after that. All right, that's going to 321.8. But the purpose of this is a fundamental, which I'm going to try and get across right now. So the fundamental when it comes to patrolling, all right, a key fundamental is whenever I take contact with the enemy, I want to take contact with the smallest element possible. The smallest element. To someone that might not make sense. Well, why? Then they're just going to get massacred. Okay, the point is that you as the leader need to maintain options. You need to maintain flexibility, okay? So if you make contact with the smallest element possible, you have more elements that you can maneuver and are flexible to maneuver on the enemy. So for instance, if I take contact with this lead squad take contact from an enemy over here, enemy position, okay? They're gonna do a react to contact drill, all right, and begin suppressing the enemy. I still now have this squad and this squad to use, to react. All right, I also have my machine guns. But I have a lot of elements to use, all right? If our spacing is poor and we take contact, this element might be shooting down and hitting our second squad as well. Our second squad, our middle squad in formation, all right? Now, both these squads are involved in suppressing the enemy, and I've only got my rear squad that still remains flexible and that I can maneuver with. I've now limited my options. So a lot of times while patrolling, it's all about probabilities. I'm trying to put it out there as best I can and raise the probability that I might if I take contact from the enemy, I'm going to take contact with the smallest element possible and retain more elements to react or to use to maneuver. All right, that's the point I'm trying to get across there. Okay, bounding overwatch. Bounding overwatch looks a little bit different, okay? But we use bounding overwatch when contact is likely. Contact with the enemy is likely, all right? And typically, the mission that we use this the most on is a movement to contact, all right? So where we're moving towards a known enemy position, but we don't confidently know exactly where he's at or his size, we're going to do bounding overwatch to make contact with him and then react and destroy him. Okay, so let's talk about bounding overwatch and some of the main points of it, all right? So let's just go from the squad level first. All right, let's just talk through it. There's two ways of bounding. So we got an alpha team and a bravo team here. Again, 2 individuals can bound. 2 teams can bound. 2 squads can bound. 2 divisions can technically bound. All right? It doesn't matter how many people you have or how many you don't. All right? If you have 2 elements, they can bound. Okay? So we got 2 ways. We got alternate and successive. Alternating, sorry, and successive. All right, so alternating is leapfrog. Alpha team moves up, Bravo team moves past. Alpha team then moves past, then Bravo team moves past. Okay, we're leapfrogging towards the enemy. All right, this tends to be faster and less deliberate. All right, if we're on a time crunch or whatever it may be, we want to make contact with the enemy now, we can start leapfrogging. We're going to get to him sooner. Okay? The other way, successive, is different. Alpha team moves up. Bravo team does not move past. It moves equal with him and gets online. Alpha team moves up. Bravo team does not move past. So Alpha team is consistently going in front, and Bravo team is just moving up to its position. That's what successive looks like. Okay? So some reasons why we do them. Again, successive now is going to be more deliberate. It's going to be a bit slower, all right, than alternating. So it's more deliberate. But another reason I use successive sometimes is, you know, I have a designated element that I want to be my support. So if I'm a squad leader, I like having my Alpha team as my support by fire. All right, that's pretty standard. It's not doctrinal, but it's pretty standard. So I want my Alpha team to be support. I'd like my Bravo team to be my assault. Now, can I absolutely be confident that that's going to happen? No. Whatever element takes contact first is going to suppress and become the support by fire. But what I can do is I can raise the probabilities in my favor. All right. So by doing that, if I'm going leapfrog or alternating, which element has a better chance of making contact with the enemy? It's 50-50, right? Alpha goes in front, then Bravo goes in front, then Alpha, then Bravo. It's a 50-50 chance. So I'm basically saying, I'm not concerned about it. I don't really care. I just want to make contact. It doesn't really matter which element makes contact first. However, all right, if I do care and I like to have my Alpha team be my support by fire, I'm going to be successive and continue to put them out front because I want them to make contact first. Now, am I guaranteeing they're going to? No, but I am raising the probability that they're going to. All right, so that's kind of how I like to use successive. When we go to the platoon level, all right, what it typically looks like is we got 3 squads that are moving. All right, so we got a squad here. I'm not going to name them by function yet, but I'm going to name them in a second. And I got a squad here. And then I got a squad in the rear. These 2 are bounding towards the enemy, all right, while this one stays in the rear as a reserve ready to react. They should be moving typically in their column. So this is drawn for each one. They're moving still in a column, all right? It's very difficult to control bounding overwatch at the platoon level, but if perfected, it's very powerful, all right? So this is my, let's say this is my, I want to do successive bounding. This guy moves forward, and him. This guy trails, all right? Now, while trailing, he can do one of 2 things. He has rear security established for the platoon, but also he can take up some high ground and provide overwatch over the movement, all right? There's different things he can do, but typically if he can have overwatch position, that's very powerful, okay? So then this guy takes contact from the enemy. Immediately now, I can go into my reactive fire drill, okay? But this element then is support by fire. This element can maneuver this way. And what's really powerful now is if this element can move and establish security right here in case anyone tries to come across that way. So I kind of get this L right here where I got an element moving this way. I got an element support by fire. And I put my rear element in security here so no one can envelop me to my left. All right, that's a really powerful position, okay? The way I like to do it, again, TTP-wise, there is no standard way. That's why when you look at 321.8, it says lead, middle, and rear, all right? It does not tell you which order to do your squads because different people do it different ways. The way I like to do it and the way I teach here at Iowa is my lead squad is my security, my middle is my assault 1, and my rear is assault 2. The reason is I like my security. Again, it has extra firepower. It's got AT4s, got extra ammunition, all right, and they can fire. They can lay a good suppressive fire down for support by fire. I think also it works better to having them in the first position when it goes to occupation of the ORP, which I kind of talk about in another video, occupation of the ORP. Okay, but again, so what I like to do is I like to raise the probability that my security squad, all right, is going to make contact first and establish that support by fire. And I put my assault 1 in my second team moving forward, raising the probability that they're going to be the one that assaults. And then I put my A2 back here kind of as my reserve. All right, that can do whatever they need to do. But that's basically how I use that platoon bounding Overwatch. All right, a lot of different ways to do it, a lot of ways to different organize it, but bounding Overwatch is very successful if used properly. All right. Okay, just a recap. We talked about the makeup of a platoon. All right, the 4 squads that are in it, kind of the different functions they have. Okay, we talked about the 2 main formations that we use. Again, there are several others. If you want to look at those, 321.8 is the perfect resource. It draws them out for you, draws all the distances out for you, very easy to understand. Okay. We talked about movement techniques, traveling Overwatch and bounding Overwatch, and how we are always in one of these techniques and how we can effectively use these, especially bounding Overwatch, to make contact with the elements that we want to. Again, the fundamental to get across is, through all this, if we take contact with the enemy, we always want to take contact with the smallest element possible and retain maximum flexibility and all the options we can keep to ourselves, because that's how we defeat the enemy, is by exercising maneuvers on him to destroy him. All right, thanks again for listening. I'm Captain Justin De Leon from the University of Iowa. Rangers lead the way.